Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peggy Chukwumawosu, and you're welcome to the 9th edition of CRC Credit Bureau's webinar series. And it's called You and Credit. CRC launched You and Credit in 2019 as part of our Sustainability and Corporate Social Responsibility initiative. It is a free workshop and webinar, and what it does is that it educates Nigerians generally on the issues of credit and the impacts on their financial lives. Today's edition is a special one because it's in collaboration with ACCION Microfinance Bank, and it is themed Making Credit Accessible, Nexus between credit bureaus and lenders. Thank you very much for joining us. We see that there are some people that are still coming in, and this promises to be a very exciting webinar. We wish to inform you that we are recording this event. We are also streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. The recordings will be made available after this webinar, and responses to questions that we're not able to during the next 2 hours will be shared within the next few days. As we go along, we will put in the chat box the link with which you can contact either CRC or ACCION directly, should in case at the end of this webinar you still have further questions. Kindly use the question and answer box for your questions. Questions can also be shared via our other channels. As I mentioned earlier, we are live streaming on Facebook and YouTube. As I mentioned earlier, today is going to be a very special session. Allow me at this juncture to introduce our renowned speakers for the day. We have Mr. Taiwo Joda with us. He's an accomplished business leader with over 30 years of vast, extensive experience in leading teams, strategy, formation, banking, and managing digital transformation programs to achieve financial inclusion objectives. He is the Managing Director, CEO of ACCION Microfinance Bank. He is certified by the John Maxwell team as a people trainer, coach, mentor, and speaker. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Finance and Banking from the University of Lagos and a Master's degree in Finance and Banking also from the University of Lagos. He's an alumnus of the Said Business School, Oxford University. It's also very important for me to state here that he's a member of the Institute of Directors, fellow Nigerian Institute of Management, fellow Board African Fellowship and Financial Inclusion, fellow Business Process Management Institute of Nigeria, Honorary Senior Member, Chartered Institute of Bankers. He currently serves as a member of several committees, including the Steering Committee, National Microfinance Platform, Vice Chairman Board, and Chairman Operations Committee of Microfinance Learning and Development Center. He's a member of the NASPER Working Group of the National Economic Summit Group and the immediate past chairman of the National Association of Microfinance Banks, Lagos State Chapter. You'll agree with me that Mr. Joda has excellent leadership skills and mentors young professionals. He's an avid golfer and he loves jazz music. I'm also pleased to introduce our host for the day. He's also a speaker, Dr. Tunde Popola. He's a Nigerian banker, accountant, economist, entrepreneur, and business executive. He has over 30 years cumulative work experience spanning the public and private sectors of the Nigerian economy. He became the Group Managing Director, CEO of CRC Credit Bureau Limited, January 1st, 2022. Prior to this, he was the Managing Director, CEO of CRC since its establishment in 2008. Dr. Popola holds a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Ife. It's now called the Bafemi Awolowo University, Nigeria. He has 2 master's degrees in banking and finance and economics from the University of Lagos. And he has a PhD in finance from Wits Business School, University of Witwatersrand, South Africa. He's an alumnus of the prestigious Lagos Business School Senior Management Program and Watson's Business School Advanced Management Program. Dr. Popola has attended several executive education programs at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government and the Harvard Business School, the International Management and Development, Switzerland, Kellogg School of Management. He's a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants and several other professional bodies. It is my pleasure to welcome both Mr. Joda and Dr. Tunde Popola today. I will be your moderator for the day. Once again, my name is Peggy Chukwumawosu, and you're very welcome. We would like to start with opening remarks from Dr. Tunde Popola. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I understand I cannot start screen share while the other person is sharing, so maybe you have to bring down your presentation. But let me say good morning to my co-host this morning, Mr. Taiwo Joda. Good morning. It's nice to have you on this platform today. And I'm excited that institutions are pushing the the boundary of financial education to Nigerians. And I think this is the way to go. All of us have to do much more in the area of financial literacy in Nigeria. And we have to do much, much more when we're talking about credit education, because we know these are an area that we still have a lot of Nigerians still don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. They don't know how what we do affects them in whatever way. So we need to do much more. I don't know whether I'm sharing my screen now.
Yes, you can, sir.
Okay, you can see my screen, right?
Not at the moment, sir.
Not at the moment, okay. So let me. Okay, so let me try to. Okay, so as I was saying, so we need to do a lot to ensure that Nigerians benefit from our experience and from what our institutions have to offer to really help them to have access to credit. I hope you can see the screen now.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. So today, myself and Mr. Joda will be talking about making credit accessible. And my presentation this morning, just the next 10 minutes or so, is just for me to welcome all of you and to just introduce us to the subject that we are going to be discussing today. We're talking about making credit accessible, having opportunities for credit and leveraging on credit, and making sure that people and businesses know about credit. We want to discuss exclusively today the relationship that the credit bureaus have with lenders. How do they help lenders to be able to do their job very well? Our job as bureau is not to lend, their own job. Lenders' job is to lend. So Mr. Joda and his organization in the zone, in the ACCION's fold, have to lend to people, have to lend to businesses. But what do we have to offer to them as credit bureaus? That's the kind of conversation. Maybe he will share with us later some of the challenges they have in this area that we're talking about today. So, and like I said, this is a very important conversation we are going to have today, because credit is life. Credit is about having access to the kind of fund you will need. And I think whether for man or for business or for government, all of us need funding one way or the other, and we need to patronize the financial services to get that funding. So today we will be talking about what credit bureaus do. We'll also be looking at various ways that lenders can leverage on the credit bureau infrastructure to improve on lending. And I hope a lot of lenders are on this platform this morning. We also will be giving perspective of lenders on the use of credit bureau, and that's where Mr. Joda comes in. He will tell us how they have been leveraging on this and what more we can do together to ensure that we deepen access to credit in Nigeria. And of course, I will use the opportunity to also let you know the various new initiatives and various new initiatives that we are undertaking as a CRC Credit Bureau. But let me say that it's not that Nigeria has, lack financial services industry, financial services companies or outlets. At the last count, there are over 3,000 lenders in Nigeria. And these, what I've done here is just to categorize them into two broad areas: those that are regulated, licensed and regulated by the central bank, and those are just who are just doing their own stuff without anybody licensing them or regulating them. Basically, around the regulated entity, you will normally find the commercial banks, the finance companies, the non-interest banks like Jais and Lotus Capital, Lotus Bank and Taj and all of that. You'll find leasing companies. Then you'll find development financial institutions like the Bank of Industry, the Federal Mortgage Bank, the Bank of Agriculture, Development Bank of Nigeria, and others in that category. You find merchant banks, you find microfinance bank, you find, primary mortgage institutions normally called mortgage banks. These are institutions that are under the purview, licensing and regulation by the central bank. But there are quite other alternative lenders there who people and businesses patronize every day. The money lenders are there. A lot of us belong to cooperative society from which we take credit or we take loan. Family and friends are there. Crowdfunding is a new thing. Peer-to-peer lending is a new deal. And then fintechs are the new, entities that have come to dominate or to play a significant role in lending in Nigeria. So these are the institutions that are into lending in Nigeria. And because of all of the activities that they are doing, including the ones that are being done by credit bureaus, you see that there is a credit to private sector can continue to grow. At the last count, I think we are over around 40 trillion. In 2022, we've exceeded 40 trillion already when we look at credit to the private sector. And that's it. We've seen that loan is growing. A number of people that have access to credit is growing. We've seen that non-performing loans is reducing. So quite a lot of things are happening in our markets, basically relating to the impact that credit bureaus have brought to the fore. And I think this is one area that I don't want us to take for granted. That Nigeria has not done well is not, we can't say Nigeria has not done well in this area. But I'll tell you why we will still say that we have not done so well. But Absolutely, in absolute terms, even in relative terms, yes, we are moving up. Number of people having access to credit is growing. Number of institutions or commercial entities having access to credit is growing. And the lending in the dark is over because credit bureaus are now available. But then you still see that you are still scratching the surface. The credit penetration is still very low. Notwithstanding the rise we have seen in the number of loans and the value of loans, when we compare ourselves to what happened in other climes, Nigeria is still relatively, low when it comes to access to credit. And as you can see here, it remains as 12% when we use credit penetration, which normally defined as the, loan to private sector as a proportion of GDP. You compare that to Kenya, to Morocco, to Brazil, or even to Malaysia. I just pick 4 economies that seem to be having the same characteristics like us, or where we should be, and see that we are far away from them. In fact, Malaysia is 134%. The value of loans out there in their economy is far more than the GDP, GDP number. So that's what you have here. I'm not even talking about South Africa. So South Africa is far advanced when it comes to credit. And in terms of credit bureau penetration, it's still very low. And that is understandable as well, because if credit penetration itself is low, then the bureau penetration will also be very low. And this speaks to the number of institutions, number of individuals that have access to credit, vis-a-vis the total number of people that ordinarily should have access to credit. So this still demonstrates the fact that only few consumers and businesses have access to some source of credit in Nigeria. So the bureaus have a lot of role to play. Even where we are today has been, bureau has been very instrumental to even the growth that we have seen over time. Bureaus, try to ensure that they provide the necessary information to lenders so that lenders can lend. So bureaus promote sharing information among lenders, and that helps to reduce the incident of what we call information asymmetry, or lenders not having access to the kind of information that they should have access to so that they can lend. Because of the fact that data is now available about borrowers, it also helps to shape the behavior of borrowers themselves, because they know their data is out there for lenders to use. So, but let me say that bureaus do not give loans or ask for money to be paid into any personal account. So, because in the previous editions of our webinars, we've seen people asking questions and they are being asked to, to pay money into somebody's account or to an entity's account. We don't do that. A bureau is a data company. A bureau is not a bank. It's not a credit. It's not a lending institution. It's not a deposit-taking institution. And I think it's important for me to make that information clear to us. What bureaus do is to collect information, borrowers' information about, credit that have been taken. We collect from banks. We collect from other financial institutions. We collect from insurance companies, from telecommunication companies, even from the public data sources, and then we put all this information together. We try to clean them up, match them, and do a lot of analysis to generate what we call credit information and credit score. And this kind of product and services, and I will talk more about that later, is now extended and is made available to the same set of institutions that submit those data to us. Banks, non-bank institutions, insurance, telcos, and rental agencies, and so on and so forth. So when we have bureaus, credit bureaus, it helps the lenders to better predict borrower default. The probability of a borrower going to go into default is better predicted by the presence of credit information, which the bureaus make available to lenders. And the studies that have been done in Argentina, in Brazil, they have found out that resulted to telling us that default rate declines when information is available from the credit bureau to lenders. And so lenders could significantly reduce their default by their customers when they use credit bureau information and other products that are predictive nature that they can use to really lend. So bureaus, we alleviate problems of this not having information by lenders, because what really happens is that lenders need information to lend to you, to lend to your businesses. They need those information. They need to know whether you are credible or you are creditworthiness or you are creditworthy. They need to know whether you have capacity to repay. They want to know whether you will be willing to repay and all of that. So when we have all of this, what we do, what the bureaus do, is to help lenders to do more, to be able to lend more. And I think that's the handshake that we have with them. We provide those information, and that reduces, what we call adverse selection. Adverse selection, of course, where ordinarily they will have lent, giving loan to somebody they are not supposed to lend to. Or you can also interpret it to mean where people who ordinarily will have had access to credit are not able to have access to credit in the absence of credit information. But when you have credit information, which lenders use, then they are able to select the right set of borrowers, the right set of clients, the right set of businesses to lend to. And then, of course, it also then reduces what we call moral hazard. By this, we mean that institution can increase borrowers' cost of default, thus increasing debt repayments. So once you know that if you don't pay, you are not likely to be able to get credit somewhere else again, or you are going to suffer for it. It enhances the capacity, incentives, give incentives to borrowers to really want to pay. And that's what this means by countering moral hazards. And of course, when we have credit bureaus, it reduces information monopoly. So because everybody is dropping their information, lenders are dropping their information into the pool that the bureaus have. So it democratizes opportunity for borrowers to be able to now reach out to as many lenders as possible. It also gives opportunity to lenders to see who is doing what with who, and that liberalizes or it gives opportunity to borrowers to be able to have access to much more credit, especially those who have good information, because so many institutions or lenders cannot be running after them with very competitive rates to give to them. And of course, because bureaus houses information from as many lenders as possible, it also reduces over-indebtedness because you can see in aggregate form total exposure from various sources of indebtedness of a typical obligor, a typical borrower. You can know this is not time for me to give money to this guy because of where he is today, or this is not my time to give additional money to this commercial entity because of the number of institutions they are borrowed from or the value of loan they are already carrying. So these are some of the advantages. These are the relationship. This is the hand-holding, nature of the relationship we have with lenders generally. CRC is a major driver and the leading member of the bureaus in Nigeria. We are an award-winning institution, and just like Peggy said, we are now a group of companies. We now have a data analytics company apart from the credit bureau that is trying to explore alternative data that lenders can rely on to give credit to provide borrowers or prospective borrowers that have never borrowed before. And I think this is going to be an exciting moment in 2023 for lenders and for ourselves. Currently, about over 2,000 institutions submit data to us, and we have over 70 million credit files on our platform. And we do provide services that enable lenders to be able to prospect for new customers. We provide services that enable lenders to be able to provide applicants, whether commercial or consumers, who apply to them for loans. We have various products and services they can use to know whether they should give or whether they should not give, or under what terms and conditions they should give. We also have quite a lot of products that they can use and they do use to monitor existing, facilities of credit that they have granted. And of course, where some of these facilities go into default, we have products and services for them that they also can use to monitor and make collections. So let me round up by saying that it's been an interesting journey for us with the lenders. And I think we are happy that we are making some progress, even though from what I've shown to you, there's still a lot to be done when you look at where we are today and where we are supposed to be in the Committee of Nations. But what we know is that once, as we are now, Nigeria has bureaus, and we can only get better moving forward. But in terms of what to do, we need to begin to see how we can have much more robust, processes by lenders to be able to use the bureaus. We have been canvassing for the use of APIs. We've been canvassing for the use of credit scoring solutions. We've been canvassing for the use of other products and services that can enable, borrowers to do more. Lenders to do more in accessing who they should be giving credits to, in profiling customers, whether old or new customers. We have been canvassing for how they can increase the number of times they submit data so that the data they are using can be as fresh as possible and not stale. The law says they should submit data once in a month, but you can submit every day now. The law says you should use credit bureau. Rather than do web searches, you can do API and then allow the machine to do the scoring for you and then automate the process of lending. So all of this can help the lenders to really increase the number of businesses they do, the number of borrowers they attend to, and the number of loans that they give. And the economy will be the better for it as we speak. So I want to welcome you once again, and I want to say that the various innovative products and services we have will continue to support management of risk in the area of lending for lenders. And also we continue to support them so that we can open up this economy to become a credit economy where businesses and individuals can have access to credit as well. Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Popola, for your introductory remarks. And as you were speaking, it occurred to me that there is, so much that even us as consumers can do, to assist lenders to profile us and see us as creditworthy individuals. But we'll talk a lot about that much later. Within the first 10 minutes, we had about 7 questions. I urge everyone to keep the questions coming. At this juncture, I would like to invite Mr. Joda for his introductory speech. Mr. Joda, sir.
Thank you very much, and good morning. And I'd like to thank Dr. Popola and team for creating a platform where lenders can also come to engage and educate the populace, especially our SMEs, the micro, the small and medium entrepreneurs, and assist them to be able to get credit to drive their businesses. It's good to be here. I will rather we drive straight into the discussion, and I'm always happy to, at the end of the day, the critical thing for me is to be able to sit back and say that we have worked assiduously with the federal government of Nigeria, both government agencies and the credit bureau and the lenders, to drive financial inclusion. A lot has gone into it. Achievements and successes have been recorded. And we also believe that greater success can be achieved in moving people out of poverty and creating an environment for prosperity for everybody. Creating that enabling environment is partly the responsibility of government, but more lies with us as individuals and business owners, and to be able to do that basic thing that will give us direct access to those credits that will help us grow our business. Most of them are financial education, not at the university level or the secondary school, but basic keeping records of accounts so that you can come and you'll be able to show to everybody, this is what you've been able to do in your business. So record keeping becomes a very important aspect of this. And where I would like to see the partnership between lenders and the credit bureau in the near future is where we can move to the level where we can have credit scoring for borrowers. This makes credit administration or loan administration, loan processing very quickly if we can have that credit scoring. Most places outside the country, in Europe and America, you have your credit scoring. And it even excites people to want to take credit because they want to see their scores goes up. At the end of today, I look forward to a more knowledgeable attendees and participants and fulfilled panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. And you've really set the tone for this conversation, because one of the questions, that is foremost on a lot of people's minds, especially the SMEs and the MSMEs, is, so ACCION as an institution, how have you been able to ease the challenges that face access to funding for MSMEs? Do you have any specific products that, they can, especially the people who are here who are trying to access funding, do you have any specific products for them, or, is it just a one size fits all?
Thank you very much. At ACCION Microfinance Bank, we have quite a number of products. These products are designed after engagement with a lot of MSME customers. We have products that fit the individual borrower. We have products that fit the businesses in the lending community. In particular to ACCION, for businesses, we have products that allows you to buy assets for your business. And we call this the assets acquisition lending facilities. So if you need to buy a generator for your business, you need to buy a new machine to help you produce well, you cannot actually come in for the asset finance. We also have products for very small business owners, like the artisans, the tailors, the drivers, the Uber drivers. We have products that satisfy their needs. We have products that help them to get what they will require to run their business. We have for the macro lenders, we have for the SMEs, we have working capital for them, working capital for up to 12 months, and which is paid at his speech from the first month to the 12 months, as you will. We have different tenor funds, loans. So there's a pay-go. We call the pay-go, especially for those who want to just clear their goods, who want to meet a bridge finance. And they don't want it for more than 30 days. They don't want it for more than 90 days. They just want to quickly get the money, clear their goods, and then get their money back. So even though it's a form of working capital, it's then further tailored to meet the need of the customers and, of course, the prospects too.
Okay.
We also have the housing loan, and that helps you to build your own house in stages. It's interesting because this one particular loan that the Central Bank of Nigeria and even the World Bank have been so excited about and are partnered with us at one point or the other. And we've taken it to the next level. So there are quite a number of products and services that are tailor-made to the need of our customers.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Popola. So we've listened extensively to Mr. Jordan, and he has illustrated quite a number of different loan products and services that they offer. And it still amazes me that there's this misconception that credit bureaus offer loans to the public. Could it be because the first name of the credit bureau is credit? But it amazes me. So Can you shed more light on this? I know you talked a bit about it during your opening remarks, but can you shed more light on why we have this misconception and what are credit bureaus doing to change this misconception?
All right, thank you so much. So I guess maybe the issue have to do with the name, the word credit. Some even have called us Bureau de Church, thinking that we exchange currencies and all of that. But that's not the situation. So a credit bureau, we are a credit bureau. We houses credit data. Our job is data collection. And data focusing exclusively on credits. That's why it's known as credit bureau. Our job is just to make life easy for everyone that are in the business of lending and borrowing. If you are a lender, you submit information about borrowers to the credit bureau, and you can have access to the full layer of data that we have collected from thousands of institutions, and that can help you to provide, the borrowers or prospective borrowers that have, approached you. And if you are a borrower too, you can find out about yourself. It's like doing medical checkup. You can do a checkup of yourself as to what is the data that lenders have about you. A lot of people don't know that they have, accounts that have gone into debit. They don't know that they have accounts that they have one loan or obligations one way or the other, until they now put themselves up for borrowing, and they discover that, somebody, one bank or one microfinance or one lender or someone somehow is just now saying that, you have been, you owe me, you have to pay me and all of that. So we have always, and this is part of the session, this one, we always have this kind of session to create awareness that you are entitled to one free report in a year as a consumer, as an individual. Go to the credit bureau, download it online. You don't need to visit, just go to CRC Credit Bureau, and then you can have that information once in 12 months. But we have much more than that. So you can be checking yourself from time to time using our even CRC mobile app. You can download the CRC mobile app on your phone, and then you can get your credit score, you can get your credit report and all of that. So I think it's still important for me to re-emphasize the fact that we are not a credit granting institution. We are a data company, and what we do is to help lenders to be able to have profile of customers they should lend to help them to lend to the right set of people, to help them to do away with the wrong people and the wrong institution or wrong commercial entities. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Popola. Mr. Jojo also mentioned when he was speaking, he mentioned credit scores, and he also mentioned the importance of record keeping. So, Dr. Popola, I know that we currently have over 98 million NINs at the moment, and BVN, I think, is about 60-something million. That speaks to me that there's still quite a number of people who are either, living in Nigeria as nationals or even Nigerians alone that are still, that still don't have NINs or BVNs. And knowing that this kind of information is critical to borrowing, are we saying that these people are possibly using alternative lenders?
Okay, so I will take two questions. I'll take your question, but let me also first respond to Mr. Joda's, observation on credit scoring solution. We have credit scores. The credit bureaus in Nigeria have credit scores, and it's been theirs in the last 3-4 years. CRC introduced a FICO credit scoring solution in 2017. That's 5 years ago, and we have thought that everybody by now, most lenders by now should have migrated to just using credit scoring solution, because that makes life easy. It democratizes access. It takes emotion out of analysis of credit credit application, and it makes life easy for lenders, because then you, as a lending institution, you then can just have a threshold of who we want to lend to by saying, okay, for instance, our own CRC is 300 to 850. 300 is lowest, 850 is the highest that anybody can score. And the higher the score, the lower the risk inherent in that particular customer. So you can say, okay, so anybody above 700, you close your eyes and lend. Anybody between 600 to 700, oh, okay, you have to do some further diligence, or you have to take some level of comfort in additional collateral, security, and all of that. So you can come up with your own policies internally to say, this is how we are going to be using the credit scoring. But the credit scoring solution has been there. And it's now a call to action for lenders to see the beauty of this. And I think maybe as a bureau, and maybe between me and you, we also have to do much more education in that regard to sensitize the community of lenders, and also sensitize the community of borrowers themselves, because that number, that credit score, become a very important thing that everybody has to watch and guard jealously for them to benefit. To make sure that they are not embarrassed when they need to borrow. And now, so going back to the question around, quite a lot of people still don't have BVN and NIN and all of that. So that's not stopping anything. The fact is that BVN is compulsory only for licenses institution like the central bank, right? So if you take a loan, if you're a customer of a microfinance bank or a commercial bank or a mortgage bank, of course they will collect your BVN, and that they submit together with the information they submit to the bureau when they submit data about you. But how about telcos? It's not compulsory for them. How about other micro lenders? It's not compulsory for them. What we encourage is that as much as possible, you have one credible means of information, which can then be the BVN or the NIN. And I think the NIN is spreading very fast. And I hope that at the end of the day, the NIN may become the major, means of identification for all of us at the other side. I think there's a lot of convergence even between the two means of identification as we speak. I know if you have enrolled with your BVN, it's easy for you now to just go and enroll your NIN and just update the information that you have. Once you have that, automatically all BVN seem to be with NIN, the National Identity Commission already. So that's one thing. But it doesn't stop you from going ahead to look for credit. It just means that but to make life easy for everyone, I think I will encourage micro lenders themselves to begin to collect this kind of information, because that way it then brings everybody into the fold of those who have authorized or legitimate means of identification. And then we can then use that to, take away fraudsters or those who are impersonating people and other people and all of that.
Thank you, Dr. Kupola. So riding on the back of that, Mr. Joda, do you foresee in the next, or at least Q1 of 2023, micro lenders beginning to use the NIN as, as a unique identifier?
Well, before I answer that question, I'll just like to engage Dr. Kupola on the credit scoring. Okay. And so it's interesting to know that we have a credit scoring mechanism since 2017 from the Credit Bureau that is not actively in use. I think what is then missing is a handshake between the lender and the Credit Bureau. So if I wear my sales cap, what I then expect is a situation, because lenders also don't want to walk down a blind alley. They want trusted partners. They want tested solutions. So if every lender or most lenders will have the customer data with a credit bureau. So for ACCION Microfinance, for example, if the CRC will pick a few of my lenders and say, look, these are 500 of your lenders. And of course, there are over 100,000 of them, data that you have. Say, these are 500 of your numbers. These are credit rating. compare them to your risk algorithm and risk rating. And if it is tested to be okay, we're willing and ready to provide the service for you. That builds trust, that builds consistency. And I think that should be the next step for CRC with most lending organizations to say, we offer this product and services. We know you like to test them. And then please go ahead and look at them. If it aligns with what you have in your books, then we're good to go. And that's on one side. NIN is currently being accepted by banks. Okay. And even lack of BVN should not discourage any borrower from approaching a bank, because banks are empowered to collect your biometrics verification number. The machines are there. Even if you are trade associations, we've had instances where we have to take the BVN machine to a place that is convenient to your place of business or where the association or group meets to capture the biometrics during account opening. So whether it's the BVN, which is accessible in any bank, or the NIN, these are open for collection by banks. The Central Bank of Nigeria has given a nod that these are acceptable means of identification. And I want to encourage the businessmen and our micro, small, and medium entrepreneurs that let's demystify borrowing. Let's demystify borrowing, and the bankers or the lenders are there to help you make an informed borrowing decision, to help you make a decision that will help you to know what capacity you can take and what capacity you may be unable to repay if you take such. And those counsels are given for free. So we're not just money lenders, we're not Shylocks, we are also financial advisory. We add financial advisory to what we do for you. And that should not, the amount to borrow, defining your purpose, and also data collection should not be a discouragement for you at all to approach ACCION Microfinance Bank or any lending institution.
Thank you, Mr. Joda. And that leads me to my next question for you, which is, in all the webinars that CRC has done, one of the feedback that we keep getting, or recurring questions we keep getting, is that Nigerians are not able to access finance, even though there's a continuous growing need for it. And when they do, they face high interest rates. And you illustrated quite a number of wonderful products and services, loan products and services that ACCION has. Could you give us an idea of what interest rates, on the average, from the lowest to the highest, maybe, that people would have to pay for these interest rates, for these loan products?
Thank you very much, Peggy. Before I go into specifics, I need to create a different optics into business. So we did a survey, and in the survey we did, cost of finance came as actually number 4 in terms of the overwhelming cost of doing business. What comes very regularly, most times, is even the cost of energy, the cost of infrastructure. So, and then when it comes to the microfinance bank, you are shocked because the micro borrower is not even so much looking at the interest portion, but the interest amount that needs to be paid. So you give, for example, you give a micro borrower 50,000 naira, and is asking you, out of this 50,000 naira, how much am I going to pay at the end of the month on 50,000 naira? And you tell him, oh, it's 2,000 naira. And he looks at you and says, that all? Because he's measuring the opportunity cost, is measuring the alternative. This is someone who has come from another place where he's borrowing at 10% per day. And he's taking 50,000 in the morning to run his businesses, to sell that food and services. And at the end of the day, has to return 5,000 naira to that money lender who is sitting in one corner and waiting for the money. And then he realized that he can turn this money very quickly over a month, only to pay 2,500. Now, if you rationalize that, or to pay 2,000 naira, if you rationalize it, oh, that's 4% flat per month on 50,000. But he's not bothered. He's not bothered on the 4% flat or the 4,000 naira. It is the academia that makes so much fuss about that. He is bothered about the fact that when he uses that 50,000 to buy goods, he's already paying 7,000 naira to transport it to the location of the business. He is bothered that he has to pay to the local government 500 naira every day to be able to keep his store where it is. And at the end of the month, that is 15,000 naira from his pocket. He is bothered about the informal tax agents that comes to collect multiple taxes from him. And so when in his own priority, he looks at it and says, hey, I'm not bothered about the extra 2,000 naira or the extra 4,000 naira on 100,000 in a month. I am bothered on the cost of fuel, on the cost of charcoal to roast my corn. I'm bothered on the cost of gas that will not last me 2 weeks, but I'm buying at 12,000, 13,000, 14,000. So generally, we should put these things in a bucket, and that's the cost of doing business. And when you remove finance costs for it, you will see that it is very insignificant to the other cost, which we need to advocate for, that it should significantly come down. Having said that, there is always a trade-off, like I mentioned before, between risk and return. So if you're taking a loan, but it's a one-man business, you don't have records, and you look at the rate of default for that kind of loan, then the interest and the pricing is layered on the perceived risk for the kind of business. And that's why for most microfinance banks and I'll say it carefully, regulated lending institutions, you'll see that as a customer improves in collection, there is an incentive layered to the pricing of that commodity. Okay, so it's a whole gamut, the knowledge gap from the borrowers that you need to bridge, and then the environment, the economic environment where you operate. So before you go to the cost of lending or the interest rates on lending, you first ask yourself, what is the interest rate on deposits? So you don't have a single interest rate digit where deposit is being mobilized at double digits. And we're also in an environment where liquidity is scarce and liquidity is very high. Liquidity in terms of funds available to on-lend to customers. And when that liquidity is very expensive to get and liquidity is very scarce to get, you then can only lend to based on what you have and what you are able to attract. But the beauty of it is that today, this year, we disbursed 33 billion naira in loan up to November at ACCION Microfinance Bank. And all the customers are so excited because of accessibility to finance. And accessibility becomes very key to them. Now, based on our discussion today and what the CRC is doing, By the time a customer builds a credit history, by the time we get to a point where we're effectively using credit rating, those things will reflect in a kind of pricing that goes into the products and services.
Okay, so I hear you when you say that there are different things that go into, pricing and interest rates. Recently, the central bank increased MPR by 100 basis points to 16.5%. Does that in any way, affect pricing, this pricing?
Well, again, okay, so we have to divide the lenders into two at this stage. For most of the deposit money banks, the commercial banks, most of them have increased between 200 to 400 basis points. Okay. But for the macro finance banks, none of them have increased their pricing. And it is not 100 basis points. They increased 100 basis points over 3 periods in less than 2 months. And so MPR is today at 14%. So when you look at that again, it is taking into note that the microfinance banks and institutions deal at the customers at the bottom of the pyramid who are vulnerable to changing economic situations. And you know that you cannot just push costs. So the headwind, the haircuts and the discounts is embraced by most microfinance banks and is not passed on to the consumers. In fact, I'll tell you this, and very important. We reviewed our loan books in ACCION Microfinance Bank, and we noted that 3,500 of our customers who were doing very well before the pandemic in 2020 suddenly struggled to pay their loan, but are struggling to get back into business. Typically, your credit algorithm will reject. But we looked at them, we distilled them, and we called them back because, again, it is a partnership. It is not borrower-lender relationship. And we're engaging them, giving them discounted interest rate, even though MPR has gone up. We gave them discounted interest rate, gave them loans to be able to go back into business. And already 100 of them are enjoying these facilities and opportunity. And so it's better to see them try. It's better to get them back into business than to look at strictly economic fundamentals to want to relate to them in business. Again, dealing with small, micro, and medium enterprises is first business, but secondly, and more importantly, it's a social responsibility that we all need to, because it's the aggregate of all of these people that leads to economic growth.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joda. Dr. Pola, Mr. Joda has talked a lot about alternative lenders. Does CRC take data from these alternative lenders? Because I mean, ultimately, if I've taken a loan from an alternative lender, I want to be included into the credit bureau. I want to have a credit score. So does CRC take in this kind of data? And what kind of data do you expect them to give?
All right, thank you very much. So CRC takes data from all lenders, whether those in the orthodox lending or those that are, not licensed or not registered by for the central bank or the regulator. The reason is very simple. We know that quite a lot of lending takes place outside the formal banking system. So you have a lot of people patronizing micro lenders, patronizing cooperatives, patronizing fintechs, and some are coming up with a lot of apps now that people are using to even borrow. All of these institutions or entities, CRC try to take data from them. In fact, as a matter of fact, our focus now is to have as many of them as possible. We don't mind having all of them, being onboarding their data to CRC. Why? Because all the commercial banks, all the microfinance banks are already with CRC in the first place. And when we are talking of the lending ecosystem or credit ecosystem, we are not just talking about those in, deposit money banks or those in development banks or those in microfinance banks. We are talking about everyone. So CRC takes data from all of them. So if you are a micro lender out there, maybe you have a very small, institution lending in Daleko market or Udue market or Balogun market, or you have an app that you are using to lend to people, you need to join the CRC Credit Bureau because that way you can have access to a larger data pool. And that way your own data also can add to the data that we have that lenders can really leverage on. What you see, if you don't do that, is that people who have borrowed and defaulted, maybe in microfinance bank or in deposit money banks, will now come to you and be borrowing from you, and they will not pay back your money. So it's good that everyone is part and parcel of the system. And so we encourage everyone to come and join. Even if you are cooperatives, we have seen a lot of cooperatives that have been affected adversely by the fact that their members don't pay loans that they have taken. Some, even for cooperatives that are institutions, that are with institutions like a company having staff of cooperative societies, some just, take the money and they resign from that company and they go away with the money. That shouldn't happen. Such a person shouldn't have opportunity to be galvanizing the credit ecosystem and be borrowing from other sources without paying that kind of money. So we encourage everyone to come, whether as long as you are a registered entity, you should be able to submit data to CRC. And you should also be able to check CRC platform for data to profile your customers. A bureau is more like a club. You come as an individual entity, you bring your own data, and then you enjoy all the facilities provided by data from all and sundry. And that's the beauty of the bureau system. And that way it keeps the economy going. It makes life easy for lenders. It makes it easy for you to be able to provide your customers. And if you don't find the information there, it probably means that that person has never borrowed from any serious institution before. And so that gives you some level of comfort to relate with him. And if you relate with him for the first time and you submit data, then his own data has also come to be added to the larger data that we have in the system. And that's how the cycle keep on widening and widening. And this speaks to what I spoke to in the slide. I spoke about credit bureau penetration. It's still very low because we know there are quite a lot of all these small lenders out there that still do not see the beauty or the value they can get from credit bureau. There's a lot that you can really get. The other day, someone showed me of a particular individual that borrowed from about 16 institutions. 16 different, all these app, provider lenders and fintechs. 16. Yes. And I check and I realized that, why? So if all these 16 institutions are submitting data to the bureau, there's no way that person could have been moving from one of them to another one and be taking their money, take 20,000 here, take 50,000 here, take 100,000 here. It's not repaying any of them. And you don't need to wait until you have that kind of default before you come and join the credit bureau. It's always good for you to join as you are setting up this your system, or this your business, or this your lending platform, and you benefit from day one so that you have zero tolerance for lending in the dark. So that's just it.
Okay, so before I ask the next question, Dr. Popola, I want to quickly take you back to where you stated that sometimes lenders can check the bureau and they don't find information. So at that point, is it that lenders can only make use of the information that they have? Or I also remembered in your introductory speech, you talked about CRC having a 100% owned subsidiary that is into data analytics. So can lenders use this type of information, or are they just stuck with the information that they have available to them?
Okay, so as we speak today, the credit bureau itself, I mean, have information just about credit data. You know, we take on data from those who have enjoyed credit before. So if your name is not there, if a borrower approaches you with an application and you check the platform, and out of about 70-something million database that we have, and that person is not there, it then probably means that either he has not enjoyed facility from any of those institutions that submitted data to us, or probably has not borrowed before, or is enjoying credit facility from institutions that has not registered with the credit bureau. It's not part of those around 2,000 institutions that are using the CRC credit bureau and submitting data to it. But what is more interesting, and that's why we decided to go to have a data analytics company to say, okay, so there are alternative data out there, even for those who have never borrowed. People do all manner of transactions. People use their telephone. What can we use? What can we do with the data on the usage of telephone? People have accounts, maybe savings account or current account. They have never borrowed. What can we do with the bank statements that they are using? I mean, they have, their debits, in and out, inflow and outflow from the account. What sense can we make out of all of that? So we bring all this together, and that's what account aggregator platform that the data analytics company is building will be doing from Q1 next year. So what then happens is that lenders will now have opportunity not just to leverage on the credit report and credit scores that the CRC Credit Bureau has, they also can leverage on alternative data of the platform that the CDAS is going to provide. So when they get the consent of that individual customer, they can use the bank statement of that customer. They can use the telephone number, transactions of that customer to analyze, because that would definitely then give a scoring to that about that customer to you as a lender, and then you can use that to take a decision. So it's going to be an exciting moment for lenders, and the whole essence is just to close that gap between those who have ever taken credit and those who have never taken credit before, so that at a typical application, you always have information to use at your doorstep, at your fingertips. And most of these transactions will be technology enabled. We digitalize this. Maybe you provide APIs that can make you to really be able to do thousands of transactions every day. A bank like ACCION probably have, so maybe when they do searches now, out of every 100, typically, maybe they get data on just about 60 out of 100. The remaining 40, they don't have information about them, maybe because they have never borrowed before, or those 40 people are borrowing with institutions that are not part of those that are submitting data to CRC. Then moving forward, they will be able to get some information. If those people have account or they have telephone number, they'll be able to get information about them and use it use the scoring solution to that effect.
Okay, so I want us to also go back to Dr. Pomola. I also want us to go back to something that Mr. Jonas said when he was speaking, because he spoke about ACCION taking a look at their books and seeing customers that were affected by COVID or social economic factors. What has the Bureau done to be able to aid lenders in this regard?
Okay, so very interesting question, Peggy. Thank you for asking that question. So when after COVID, first of all, what the central bank did was to issue a circular and talk about forbearance, and also getting banks to say, okay, you know what, go and renegotiate, show understanding, show empathy to your customers, engage your customers, restructure their loan, forgive some interest rates, bring down the interest rates, maybe write off some of their, default rates, that are due and they have not paid and all of that. And then you can then look at them again. So what we have done in the Bureau is to develop a product called Delay Propensity Score to, make a typical lender to look at a customer and say, what's the probability that this customer's business has been affected by COVID, okay? And if it's been affected by COVID, what's the probability that this customer will default in payment of the loans that were already advanced to him or to her, as case be. So we have that product called Delay Propensity Score, DPS. So you can subject all your customers to it, and it will give you the probability that they will default on account of COVID. But after COVID, what we then did was to now extend the frontiers of the factors that we put into developing that model to say, okay, well, what are, in the space of economic challenges that we face, what is the probability that a typical customer will go into default as a result of economic challenges that are pervasive now? And so that product is also there for lenders to use. And I would strongly recommend that this is a very critical moment. We all know what we are facing now. Banditry is there, insecurity is there, economic challenges there, inflation is there, devaluation is there, all manner of things are there. We can begin to talk of so many negative things that affect the capacity of people to repay loans. We have developed a solution that can help you to really know of these customers that have granted loans to, how many of them will be affected, and what's the probability that they will default. And then it will then help you to take a proactive steps to manage such customers and manage such loans or such facilities.
Thank you. At the moment, we have 66 questions. I would like to encourage participants in this webinar to continue sending your questions in. There will be a time for us to take questions, and then our speakers and hosts today will be able to respond to your questions. Mr. Taiwo, let me come to you. So Dr. Pubola has talked a lot about the kinds of data and data sources that the credit bureaus are taking data from that would assist lenders. Is there any information that you require in taking decisions that you currently do not have from the credit bureaus?
Thank you. Okay, so to start with, I want to say the credit bureau, especially CRC, has done quite a lot and it's quite commendable. So I'll encourage you to put the information out there. Back to your question. Today, it is very difficult to, like Dr. Popola rightly mentioned, to determine the capacity of a first-time borrower because the information on credit does not exist. But I think there are so many data points. So the financial history of such customer exists. Even telephone records exist, okay? One can easily harness the telephone to see credit or debit alerts. A lot of fintech organizations do that. And I think if the license of the credit bureau covers that, that would be an innovative way to step in, even to be able to evaluate first-time borrowers in the market. First is there an opportunity or is there a way that rather than deal only with organizations, credit bureau can deal with interested individuals, obviously at a fee, who would like to load his financials for purpose of credit rating, who would like to make available the data on his or her phone for the purpose of credit rating. And also borrowers or first-time borrowers that even lenders can encourage to go through that process. That product will have covered a vacant niche that currently exists today in the market.
Okay, it's interesting that you say that because so if I'm allowed to do that, would that take away the challenges of accessing credits, towards the issues of like providing fixed assets or security? I mean, is there any way around that?
So it's a combination of a lot of things. So like I said, the average lender in the market, especially banks, microfinance bank, deposit money banks, is first to de-risk, okay? Make lending decision and credit decision easy. Make loan administration easy. And so the first, why do I take security? Security is a fallback position. Security is something that I'm able to go back to if the loan fails. Security is not the primary reason for doing business. And that's how we have worked with ACCION. So number one, government has helped with the National Collateral Registry, where you can register movable assets. So your chairs in your house, your table, your cars can be an asset. Your deep freezer can be an asset. You don't pack them and take them to the banks. You keep them at home. You still use them, but they are now registered on what is called the National Collateral Registry that is designed for movable collaterals. You can put them there. You can put an estimate there. So it makes it easier. There's also the guarantors. Someone who trusts you can come around to say, I am guaranteeing this person to take this loan. There are quite a number of loan amounts that we give, even without any fixed assets. So your guarantor is sufficient. Your credit score will help to even remove, and your movable assets is there. So again, I think it is engagement that is required for people to understand that it is not all about security. Security is important because they are the environment, but if I will be comfortable, especially if you're a first-time borrower, that there are data that supports your capacity to be able to borrow what you want to borrow, then it only does not just work on reducing the insistence on security. It also works on reducing the pricing, because there's a direct proportion between, or a direct relationship between the risk you're taking and the price that you're going to charge on the business.
Okay, thank you. So are there, I mean, we're going into 2023, you know, and a lot of things are happening next year. So there's elections coming up, there's swearing in of the new president or return of the current president, as the case may be. So coming back to lenders, are there any alternative, you know, finance offerings or innovations that we expect to see that would support increased lending to either consumers or MSMEs?
Oh, yes. So for our existing customers at the moment, and that will double live by 1st of January, there's what we call a top-up loan. We know that the environment is going to be tough next year. So by the time you pay down your loan to a certain level, and this is automated, it's going to be online real time. You're going to get your credit alert in 10 minutes. So you just say, look, you have reviewed my risk. You have given me a limit of 5 million. I've paid down to 2 million. I need to go back to 5 million because I can't leave my house and the challenges are there. And then just with a snap of the finger, the money goes into your account because the risk has already been taken care of. Checks have been done with a credit bureau. Documentations are already there. And that just helps it. And so again, we know that it may be a tough first quarter. We pray against it, but we're sure that the economy is not going to go down. So again, you look at where the areas of business opportunities. I'm sure you've seen a lot of printed shirts and face cap. There's somebody who will print that shirts. There's somebody who will print that face cap. There's somebody who will sell the fabrics. And there'll be a lot of flags. And maybe a lot more umbrella will sell even without the rain, and brooms will sell even when the floors are not dirty. So it creates the spending during election year is huge, and it trickles down to the MSME. And so we're making our platform digitally ready for them to be able to get the loans that they require to run and do their businesses.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Joda. Dr. Popola, one last question for you before we go into the Q&A session. So we've talked a lot about credit scores, and we've talked a lot about credit rating. Can you please, just in a summary, explain the difference between the two? Because I know that those two terms are used interchangeably. Do they mean the same thing?
You mean credit report and credit score?
Credit score and credit rating.
Oh, okay. Credit score and credit rating. Okay, all right. Thank you. So both of them are ratings, actually. And it speaks to trying to represent the level of risk inherent in the customer in a figurative manner, in just using numbers to do that. But when we talk about credit score, we're using that term to be applicable to consumers, to persons, to individuals. Okay, so Tunde Bokola has a credit score. Taiwo Joda has a credit score. Peggy Chukma also has a credit score. Our credit score is powered by FICO, so we are not inventing the wheel. We're just using what is applicable as the best credit scoring solution in the world. That's what CRC is brought to Nigeria, and we just customize it for our own environment, looking at the various information that goes into credit scoring solution. So that's credit score. Credit score is applicable to me and you as individuals. But when we talk of credit rating, more often than not, this is the rating of companies. It's still figurative. It can then be, so it then depends on whether it's big institutions you are rating or small institutions you are rating. If it's SME, we have what we call SME rating, for instance. We don't have that in Nigeria yet. But India and Egypt, these are countries that I'm very familiar with that run emerging economies like ours that have SME rating companies. You have companies that do rating of, so it can be 1 to 5. So ABC Limited can have, as an SME, can subject itself to rating, can be rated 5, can be rated 4, and lenders can then look at that. To then determine whether they are good or bad. But there are big institutions that subject themselves to rating, to Fitch, S&P, and other international rating agencies like that, that can then be AA+, AA, B, BP+, B+, B-. They are all looking at the same thing is what they are looking at. For individuals, they are looking at your level of indebtedness. They are looking at how many loans do you have. They are looking at the performance of the loans you have enjoyed in the past. They are looking at how many inquiries have been conducted on you. All those information that you find in a credit report is what they now aggregate and attach weights to them and then come up with credit scores. So that's credit score for individuals. So whenever we talk about credit score, we are talking about scoring solution that try to look at the riskiness of an individual as a person as well. Whereas for SME ratings or for big institutions rating, they also look at the cash flow, they look at management, they look at board, they look at profitability, they look at sustainability of the business, they look at the risk inherent in the environment under which that company is running, to assign the ratings to such companies. So that's just the thing. All of them are ratings one way or the other, but in technical terms, ratings are applicable to commercial entities and governments and sovereigns, whereas scores are applicable to me and you as individuals, what we call consumers in technical terms.
Thank you very much, Dr. Popola. So we're now into the question and answer session. At the moment, we have 73. As I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, questions that we're unable to answer within the 2 hours for this webinar will be responded to by both CRC and ACCION. Mr. Jordan, the first question is for you, and it's from PlayUp Technology. And they're asking, what is the duration period of the credit when it's released from the applicant, when it's released for the applicants after applying? He's requesting that this should be looked into for SMEs and individuals.
Okay, so we are not a fintech, so we build our products and services to tailor to the customer's need. So if a customer needs a loan for 90 days, we give the customer 90 days. If a customer needs it for 180 days, we give for 180 days. If a customer needs it for 1 year, we give it for 1 year. So there's no one cap fits all for us, but the duration of the loan is tailored towards the customer's business need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We will be sharing the video at the end of this session. And the video, of course, would have the whole discourse between both our speakers and the questions that are asked. Dr. Popola, I have a question for you. There's a person who defaulted in loan repayment, ends up paying the loan, and the lending bank issues the clients with a letter of non-indebtedness. And then sometimes this takes time being cleared at the bureau. The data takes time being cleared at the bureau. So after they've visited the bank and they've complained, so what is their next course of action? And then on top of that, I'm also asking another question. Should we even have letters of non-indebtedness?
Okay, all right, thank you very much. And I think I will use that to answer questions because I've seen a lot of questions relating to non-responsiveness, not the ability to update data and all of that. So let me just use generally to the opportunity to answer that. So when someone has repaid a loan, it's mandatory for the institution, the lending institution, to update the data. And there are various ways they can do that. First, they can wait. They update it in their records, pass the normal entries, maybe credit the account, and then wait till the end of the month when they submit data. They submit the data together with all the borrowing, all the data they want to submit for that particular end of month. They can also, activate submitting the data immediately to the bureau and say, okay, you know what? Tunde has paid down his loan today, and then they send that information on that particular entity or that particular individual to the bureau today, and then that gets updated. But CRC has gone one step ahead to even now empower our lenders to be able to, on their own, update such information through what we call data management mode. We call it DMM. More than, I think, about 400 or 500 institutions that our members are using this particular, opportunity to do that. So on their own, they update immediately, so they can do that on their own without a cost to us. And I think that's the approach. That's what everybody should lend on, should latch on to. There is the time it takes you to be sitting down and be writing letter of indebtedness, you'll have updated the data in the bureau. So it's faster for you as a lending institution to update the data than for you to be writing letter of indebtedness. I want to believe that a lot of lenders no longer recognize letter of indebtedness from anybody. Because why will you be writing letter of indebtedness when you can update the data at the bureau side? So that's what I want to encourage. You don't need to wait till end of month or when you are doing your circle, the period, the circle at which, which you submit data, you can update immediately. You can, we train your users to, you dedicated people to be able to do that update from time to time. They do it several times in the day. And we have dedicated people at our end to make sure that all this data is processed immediately. But also, CRC has also introduced API for data submission. The API for data submission is to automate, your submission of data And that also means that you can begin to update your data through the API every day if you want to do that. So you can do that every day if you really want to do that. And so there is no room for a letter of non-indebtedness. I don't think anybody is bound to honor any letter of indebtedness that anybody is carrying from anywhere when they have a third party. I mean, a bureau is there as a third party neutral person, neutral institution that houses the data, that have the update and so on and so forth like that. Some said they are paid back loan, they have this letter and then it's not clear. That cannot be true. That cannot be true. When you have, if you have issues, and I think I want to use this opportunity to talk about the avenue through which you can make your complaint. The normal thing is for you to go back to your bank and make that complaint to them and say, yeah, please update my data, I've paid and all of that. But you can even approach us. You can send email to us. You can call our numbers. You can go to our website and send information. We process on the average not less than 5,000 inquiries every month of people asking questions and asking us to help them to resolve issues they may have. So we do all of that, and that platform is available for you to know. We have dedicated group of people. The only thing they do is to attend to you. We won't attend people through WhatsApp, through telephone, through email. All the channels of communication are open for people to complain, and then we can help you take it up. So if you don't go back to your bank, if you come back to us, we will take those issues up on your behalf with the affected institutions. Then some say they have
Dr. Pokwala,
yes.
Let me ask, because this is the concerns are germane among participants. Let me ask, for example, my organization updates from our end. We are linked to you with an API. We update. When we update a customer's profile, is it online real time or is it like a T+1? Is that update seen immediately, or do you have to like run end of day and then there's a delay and the update has to be done later?
Okay, so if you use the data management module, is live actually, so it's not much more like live. But if you do end of month submission, then it queues up, and that's T plus. It can be T+1, it can be T+2 days. Okay, because at that time, millions of data are being processed and they are on a queue. And that's why we have always encouraged all our members to use the DMM, the data management module option. There's no way that data will not be processed within that particular day if you use the DMM.
So you will recommend that anyone who has made payments and needs his record cleared to go to the bank, because I believe that the same time that it takes to issue that letter, they could have updated the record.
Exactly. So what I would recommend is all institutions that are members should dedicate 1 or 2 staff that will be handling that DMM on their behalf, because it has to be centralized in those institutions. And so you can have 1 or 2 staff dedicated to have, we train such people and they have access, to do that update on behalf of the institution every day. And they can do it several times in a day, So the other issue that also has emanated from this I've seen on the platform is that people have challenges with their data, and that we do not listen to those challenges. We do listen to challenges. We do, take up, your fights with the lenders. In fact, if it's your issue has gone through a court of law, maybe it's already in a court, we even note it where you have a dispute. We put it on the credit report that this person is disputing this particular, report. So you said you are owing 100,000. I mean, the bank says you are owing 100,000 and it's bad. And you are saying, I'm owing only 10,000 and it's not bad. We will put it there that if the lender insists, we leave that figure as it is, but we now put a narration to say this customer or this data subject is disputing this information. So that whoever wants, you are going to have relationship with, we know that you are already contesting that. But we will not be able to take that data off as long as that institution that submitted the data is insisting, because they are the one to furnish you with data. We can't change data on our own, okay? But we can listen to you and annotate it with your own information as a data subject to say you are disputing it. And so anybody who sees that report will know that it's in dispute.
Thank you, Dr. Popola. So we have quite a number of questions here on how can I access a loan? What kind of loan products can I have access to? I want to ensure all the participants today that when you are receiving the video, when we're sending the video to you of this webinar to you later in the day, you would have links to both ACCION and CRC. So for questions on how do you access credit, all you need to do is click on the link for ACCION and you would go direct to their portal. And then for CRC, when you click on the link, you can also ask other questions or you can request for your credit report. So Mr. Joda, there's a question here that says, is ACCION involved in oil and gas borrowing? And what is expected from that borrower?
If the oil and gas business is at the level of the micro, okay, so it's important with the fine oil and gas. So upstream, downstream, maybe not. There's a single obligor limit. There's also the need to really define the kind of persona that the ACCION Microfinance Bank deals with. We deal with customers at the bottom of the pyramid. Okay, we deal with customers. We don't, when you want oil and gas loan in billions and hundreds of millions, we'll encourage you to go to the commercial banks. Microfinance banks are not mini banks. They are banks for micro customers. It's a different thing. So if you run a filling station or a gas station and you need money as working capital, we will work with you. If you want to import, microfinance banks are also not allowed to deal in FX or FCY loans. So we're unable to do that. So it's important that we define such oil and gas and the magnitude of the capital that is required to be sunken into the business. And like Peggy, like you've rightly said, I think those questions, because we would like to probe further, those questions are better sent to our link, and then we will know. But we do our businesses. We are not restricted. What we don't do at the moment today is primary production in the farm, because we are mostly in the urban and peri-urban. We are not yet in the rural areas. But when it comes to processing, agri-processing, we look at them and we do quite a number of that. So just get in touch with us. We'll be willing. Our contact center is 24/7, and we'll be very happy to address in details all those questions.
Thank you very much. Dr. Popola, I have a question for you. It says, what do you think that governments can do, perhaps in the area of law enactment and legislation for credit bureaus?
Well, I think government has done their best in terms of legislation. There are two major legislation laws and regulations that are supporting the activities of credit bureau in Nigeria. First, we have the National Reporting Act 2017. It's a very robust legislation that talks about what a bureau is, the responsibility of bureaus, the rights, and then the obligations that they have to data subject and to furnishers of data. They also talk about responsibility of data furnishers, those who are using the data. It talks around the permissible purposes, what can you use the data for, what you cannot use the data for. And it spells out penalty, including imprisonment for those who misuse data or misuse information of data subject, or wrongly or maliciously submit data to credit bureaus for those who do not. And that speaks to why I think Mr. Judah mentioned why it's really been difficult for us to be taking data directly from individuals, because it's easy to hold legal entities because those have legal obligations and they can sue and be sued, and they may be able to pay penalties where they need to pay penalties and all of that. But when it comes to individual submitting data, then it may be difficult for you to clarify, to take out malicious data submission. Some people, and just because somebody fought them or something, create something and want to submit data like that. We are working on studying how we can refine and see whether we can still be taking some data in that regard. So, but beyond the national, the Act of Parliament, which is the biggest, legislation and the best that anybody can have. You then have the CBN regulation. We have the, guidelines on licensing operations and regulation of credit bureaus 2013, which CBN, put together to guide the usage of data and submission of data by the institutions that they regulate, that CBN regulates. And you realize that most lenders are regulated. The ones, I put it out there in my slide that there are regulated entities. So those, in addition to the law of the nation, the Act of Parliament, that CBN circle, guidelines also now regulate the activities of, licensed lenders, licensed by CBN in terms of what they can do with data, what they cannot do with data, how to go around, cleaning up data, how to go about complaining, how to address. It even mandates, especially for those who are interested in, my data, my issue has not been taken up. You can't have your data, your issue not addressed. It must be addressed within 10 working days. That's what the law says. If you submit a complaint either to the bureau or to a lender, maybe an ACCION that has your data and you are contesting, within 10 days it must be addressed. If it's not addressed, then it must be escalated to central bank for the attention of central bank. So you have all those things there that try to protect, try to guide, and try to encourage, data subjects like me and you. On how to use the data, on what your data can be used for, and on how to benefit from. So it's the same law, both the National Reporting Act and the CBN legislation that says that you are entitled to one free credit report in a year, which you also can get from any of the licensed credit bureaus.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Popola. So riding on that data question, is CRC considering the use of NIN as an alternative to BVN for doing credit history lookup on credit applicants? And what else do we expect to see from CRC in the near future?
Okay, so there are quite a lot of initiatives. So we're watching closely the NIN, the how many Nigerians already have NIN. And every month we look at how many of our data furnishers, how many lenders do submit NIN information. So when we get to critical mass, then we can begin to use it, because there's no point using it when a lot of data do not come with NIN. So what we are doing now is to encourage, we have created a field for lenders to put NIN. So we have a field under means of identification. We have, currently have for international passport, we have for driver's license, we have for BVN. So we have added a fourth one for NIN. So which means, because we, like I said at the beginning, we foresee that in the next few years, maybe the next 1 or 2 or 3 years, every Nigeria, an average Nigeria must have NIN. And so if all of us have NIN, then that becomes very easy for us to use. And that will make life easier for me and you. So rather than searching for Tunde Popola, if you search for Tunde Popola, you can have 300 Tunde Popola out of the 70 million records that we have. But if you have a NIN of Tunde Popola, that my own Popola, Tunde Popola, that's just 12389, and you put my number 12389, that's what who you are looking for. It will give you only one, response. And so there would be no issue of mistaken identity or merging wrong data, because sometimes you have people, same name, same date of birth, almost information almost the same. And then it it's quite difficult for the system, for technology to really know what's the difference between the two of them. And sometimes lenders really mismatch this, even system really mismatch this set of people. So we're looking forward to that. When we get the critical mass, we will then be using only maybe BVN and NIM to moving on, because we still know that even as we speak today, those are the two means of identification that a lot of Nigerians have.
Okay. Mr. Joda, there's a question for you. It has been established that there is a correlation between financial literacy and financial inclusion, yet not enough is being done to provide financial education. Many educated people still do not know what value the Nexus or what value credit bureaus have to offer. Should we be doing more in terms of promoting financial education?
I mean, I can't agree less with that. We need to do more in terms of promoting financial education, financial literacy. Let me also be careful to say this. While illiteracy generally has been linked to poverty level, okay, financial literacy is different from academic literacy. So I have worked very closely with people in the markets who use their USSD, they even use digitized, who has never been to school, but they learn so much on the business they do, and they have enough information to be able to help them to do the business. And I think that's where Microfinance Bank creates the bridge. It is not just about money lending business, it's about educating and driving financial inclusion. So it goes beyond just giving out loans. It includes savings. Is to also be able to tell the poor and let them know that they can save. It is also helping them to use the different platforms for the payments of goods, for payments of goods and services. It is having customer engagement every now and then to know what they need to do and what they need to have to be able to have their business grow and prosper. It is not uncommon for us to have quarterly meetings, customer meetings and customer engagements to tell them the recent financial trend in the economy, even to educate them about what the government is doing in terms of intervention funds and guiding them through on how to do it. I recall the last time we had the COVID intervention fund of 50 billion, we mandated all our account officers and branch managers to help our customers to fill the form online and to help them to access some of those loans. So I agree. And that's why we're having this seminar. For CRC, this is the 9th already. That they're having, I guess, this year. We've had various webinars, about 12 this year. And so that engagement, that collaboration across sectors are ongoing. And it also does not avoid of the Central Bank of Nigeria. We had a meeting with the regulators yesterday, Central Bank of Nigeria, at the Nigerian microfinance platform. And we have a commitment, very strong commitment from the Central Bank of Nigeria and the NDIC to continue to support in educating the vulnerable sector of the economy on financial literacy. And the Association of National Association of Microfinance Bank are also doing that, using the radio, using the media, and every available resources to reach out to customers.
Okay. It sounds like a lot of work is still being done in this regard. There's another question that says for you, Mr. Joda, the Central Bank of Nigeria recently introduced the Global Standing Instruction to reduce the risk of bad loans that negatively affect lenders. What is the procedure for implementing this for micro lenders?
Okay, so first, let me say a big thank you to CBN, and that's a very good question. So today, CBN has implemented that for all commercial banks. CBN has also implemented for all mortgage banks. Currently, I would say that it's even the microfinance banks and some regulated microfinance institution that is slowing down CBN from finally implementing from the microfinance banks. Because at the last meeting, as at November, out of the over 890 microfinance banks in existence, about 870, we have just about 60% that are fully enrolled. And I think CBN is set to roll this out latest in January. But they're also being careful, because rolling it out means that those who are not onboarded, the other over 400 microfinance banks who are not onboarded at the moment, will not be able to give loans to customers. So it may even be worth it for customers of microfinance institution to ask them that how well are you prepared for the GSI, so that we can continue to do business with you. I think this should come up as early as January. And I think after doing it for the microfinance bank, they will look at the regulated microfinance institutions that are lenders.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more question for you, Mr. Joda. So we do have some questions that talk around debiting. Some people are experiencing that their accounts are being debited, and then lenders are, the accounts are debited, but not by lenders now. The accounts are being debited by fraudsters. And then, of course, they borrowed and the lenders are asking them to repay. So in this instance, what should they do?
Thank you very much. Cybercrime is a serious concern. And as more as we deepen the use of technology and the acceptance of digital payment systems, we expect this will be on the rise. In fact, quite a number has been seen. So there are two responsibilities. One is for the institution. I think institutions of lenders or banks need to tighten their security, especially cybersecurity framework, to ensure safety of funds. Secondly is that, and again, they have had issues that a bank failed to resolve. And I wrote to the Consumer Protection Center of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and it was resolved after carrying out their due diligence. Let us, however, I'll be quick to mention that 2/3 of every digital fraud has to do with the unknown collaboration from account holders. When you begin to give your debit card to your driver to go and help you withdraw money from ATM because you can't queue, you give your debit card to your driver to go and help you buy fuel, there's no cash in your wallet, that means you have to disclose your PIN. Sometimes people don't change this PIN after they've disclosed them. The driver may not be the one to use it, but your driver or your administrative staff may pass it to another person.
Yes.
And they can even take picture of your card. Now we have contactless card. They don't need your card. There are transactions, they don't need your card. They only need the details on your card and your PIN number. So when it comes to digital, when it comes to the protection of your PIN, when it comes to the protection of every tools you use for your digital transaction, including your token, I'll say please trust nobody. let's not play the big man around that. Because when a bank realizes that you are part of the fraud because of your negligence, then they're reluctant and to want to refund such money, because they notice that, okay, so you tell a bank and the bank traces it and looks at the ATM picture, and the person that sit there is your son or your daughter who has taken money from your account. And you want the bank to refund. If you have not compromised in some way, they will not have access to such. But if you're genuinely affected and the bank is not refunding your money, please feel free to write the Consumer Protection Department of Central Bank of Nigeria. They're there to protect you. And you can easily access their email address from the Central Bank of Nigeria website.
Thank you very much.
If it's a microfinance bank, you can report such a microfinance institution to the National Association of Microfinance Bank. Also go on their portal, and they have a self-regulatory scheme in place. And they will reach out to that organization and address and speak to them on your behalf to know the facts of the case. Thank you.
Okay, so that was supposed to be the last question, but I have one more question for you. But let me first of all go to Dr. Popola. Sir, I have a question that says alternative credit scoring is becoming more popular because financial institutions are interested in finding safe ways to loan money to people who don't have traditional credit scores or credit history. Is the CRC taking cognizance of this in scoring? I know earlier you talked about alternative data sources, but CRC taking cognizance of this in scoring borrowers, and how are these alternative data sources being integrated into the micro profiles of prospective borrowers?
All right, thank you very much. So I think we are at the right time, speaking at the right issue. CRC, like I said earlier, has established a subsidiary to just focus on that side of the business, called CRC Data and Analytics Limited. You can check out the website later, CRC Data and Analytics, simply called CDAL, CDAL. What they focus on is on alternative data as one of the products and services they will be rendering to the market. And this will focus on using account statements, using telephone usage, and some other things that are available, social media information, to then use that, harvest all this information and generate scores. You know, so it's not a credit score, it's an alternative scoring solution for those who do not have credit scores. And this is what is going to be driving, this is what we are going to be driving from first quarter next year. The first quarter is already here by God's grace. We're talking around March, April. That's when we go live with this product. A lot of work is going on. We are doing a lot of testing. We are involving some institutions to look at what we are doing, and we will bring this to the market. So lenders can then use credit score powered by FICO from CRC for those who have credit history, and then they can use the one powered by CDAL for those who do not have credit history or do not have any credit, have never borrowed at all, but who have bank accounts or who has telephone lines or who have social media engagement. All these three will be harvested together to generate scores for this set of people. And that's the future, because that was the question you asked, what is in, what should we be looking out for in CRC? And I think, thank you for bringing that question again, because I didn't answer it at that time. This is the future. This is what is going to happen. So we want to be able to score everyone. If you have credit, you have enjoyed credit before, you have your normal credit score. If you have never enjoyed credit before, then you have your alternative scores. And so everybody will be scored.
Thank you very much. Mr. Joda, how prepared are the microfinance banks to run the CBN cashless and withdrawal policy?
Very good question. So today is Thursday, and since the microfinance, since the CBN mentioned the cash-light policy, we we have started first to educate our customers on what they need to do. And Thursday today, if you go out, you probably see account officers and staff and senior management staff of ACCION Microfinance Bank in the marketplaces, telling the customers what they need to do and how they need to continue in business. Number two is that the level of digital penetration in most microfinance banks is high. So you'll see most microfinance banks, we are being a pace setter in that regard. We have the USSD code, we have mobile, we have we have internet banking, we have various kind of digital platforms, e-channels for customers to be able to transact their business. We are also empowering customers, working with some commercial banks with POSs, merchant POSs, so that when they visit them to make payments, they can offer the POS. They can also ask customers to make transfers into their accounts and try to look out for the alerts working with their bank. So the primary thing for us is educating our customers to be able to use the digital channels and to encourage people who will be going to the market to please use digital channels, stop carrying cash. It's going to be gradual. I support the move. I think it's good for our economy too.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joda. We're almost out of time. Can you please give us a few parting shots?
Thank you very much. I see, first, let me congratulate again CRC, but I think there's a lot more that needs to be done, especially in terms of pushing out the information out there on what products exist. So that needs to be communicated very strongly. And number two, let the customers feel warm around the credit bureau. I've read a few of the comments, and these engagements must continue. For the several questions that we're unable to answer, I'd like all the dear participants to visit ACCION website, www.accionmab.com. It is a very interactive website, and most of these questions will be answered. And if you need further clarification, there's a phone number there that you can call, and you'll be attended to pronto. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Joda. Dr. Bupola, can I have a few parting words from you as well?
Okay, thank you. I think it's been an interesting session. I think I enjoyed the fact that we have done this with a prominent frontline lender this morning. And I think whatever we discuss here is extended to all lenders out there to say that the Bureau is here to help you to do more businesses, to have quality information upon which you can base your decision. And we would like to have lenders take advantage of all the, services and the channels that we have that they can use to benefit from us. So, in fact, using web to reach us or to access information is becoming obsolete. The API is the in thing now, just to access information and extract information, also to submit data. And like I've mentioned on this platform, you can submit your data every day. You can update your data every day. There's nothing stopping you from that. And for data subject and consumers, me and you out there, there's a lot that you can get about yourself. I think the first thing we always encourage is for people to do their own checkup by trying to find out what is out there about you relating to credit. And the only way for you to do that is to check your credit report and check your credit score. And that is available both through our web and also through our app. So our app is CRC Mobile. You can download it and then check for all these products there. For lenders, there's nothing you are doing about lending that CRC has not provided, has not come up with something that can benefit you in terms of information. We know what you need is information. We know you are very, curious to know that particular customer. Where is he? That is out there that you are looking for. We also know those that have applied to you for loan. You are interested in what is it credible for me to give loans to this person? We know that we are looking out for, okay, I've given out my loan. How do I monitor what this guy is doing after giving him loan? And we also know that you're also interested in once this loan goes back, what can I do? We have at least 16 products that you can use for all these channels, value chain that I've mentioned. And I think we should just latch onto all these products and services to make life easy, and we can grow our economy together. Both of us are in together to make lending credit become something second to nature, second nature to us. We want this economy to run as a credit economy so that we can expand production, we can expand consumption, and we can expand prosperity to Nigerians. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Popola and Mr. Joda, for your parting words. I want to assure everyone here today that responses to your questions will be shared with you. We have over 100 questions. And so in the next few days, members of the teams of both CRC and ACCION will be reaching out to you to provide answers to your questions. Once again, let me reassure you that the video of this webinar will be shared, and there will be links in that email for you to just click on, for you to either reach ACCION directly or CRC directly. This webinar today was brought about in collaboration with both CRC and ACCION Microfinance Bank. And so let me seize this opportunity to thank our speakers and our hosts. We have 2 speakers today and we have 2 hosts for sharing their wealth of experience. I would like to thank both teams, ACCION and CRC, for the wonderful organization of this webinar. And of course, everyone here today for making this a resounding success. We look forward to welcoming you to our next webinar. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.